Hello, everyone. My name is Tiffin Gashumba. I come from the country of Rwanda. Yeah, before I begin talking, one of the things that I do, I am a motivational speaker. So motivational speakers love live congregations. You gotta respond. You gotta show some life. You're gonna be there when you're gonna fully engage yourself into that. So I would like you to be part of this, and we're gonna have a great time. Well, I come from Rwanda. Rwanda is a very small country. It's compared the size of the state of Maryland. It's in East Africa. It's surrounded by countries like Tanzania, Burundi, Uganda, and Congo. And Rwanda is known of the genocide. Before I tell you about the genocide, I want to tell you the historical part of Rwanda. Before the genocide, Rwanda has three groups. It has the Hutu, it has the Tutsi, and the Twa. And those three groups, they lived together for many, many, many years. They were friends, they worked together, they did everything together. And the kings used to be the Tutsi most of the time. The percentage of those three groups are different. The Hutu are the majority with a percentage of probably 84%. And the Tutsi are 15%, and the remaining one are the Twa. So, but for very many years, the Tutsi used to be the leaders of that country. Now, what happened in 1994, the genocide that happened in 1994 was not the first genocide. The first genocide happened in 1959 and 1960. And that genocide caused people to go to different countries. And the people fled as refugees, and some of them went to Uganda, and others went to Rwanda. The reason why I can speak English when I'm supposed to be speaking French is because I was not born in Rwanda myself. I was born in Uganda, but I'm a Rwandan. My parents are Rwandese. So I was born in Uganda, but I'm very well conversant with the genocide, because right after the genocide, 2 years, I went and started living in Rwanda. And so there are people that fled and went and lived in the country, in other countries, in Congo, in Uganda, in Kenya, in Tanzania, and Burundi, because they had to flee the genocide that happened in 1959. And they were there for very many years, for 30 years. In 1990, after 30 years of being seeking asylum and refugees in other countries, they wrote to the president who was there at that time, Habyarimana, and they said, no, we want to come back home. And the President Habyarimana said, no, Rwanda is a very small country. All of us cannot fit in that one country. Please keep living wherever you want to live, or maybe find somewhere else to stay. So, well, they formed an army called the RPF, the Rwandese Patriotic Front. And then they started fighting to come back home since 1990. Now, in 1994, there was the death of a president, Habyarimana, at that time. Someone shot the plane. We still don't know who shot that plane. He shot that plane, and that president was killed. Actually, there were two presidents who were killed, the one of Rwanda and the one of Burundi. He was shot when it was about to land to the airport of Kigali International Airport. And right after that, the genocide in Rwanda had already been planned. Now, keep in mind that not all the Tutsi people fled the nation in 1960. So some Tutsi remained in the country, and there were many of them. And there were quite a number of them in different places in the country. So when the president was killed, the genocide had already been systematically organized. It had been organized, and people had already made machetes and pangas, and they had already organized how they are going to systematically wipe and kill all the Tutsi. So they used the radio, all the means of communication that were in the country, the word of mouth, they used the radio, they used all kinds of things to tell the people not to leave their houses. So people stayed in their houses, pretty much like what happened in Boston, like when they wanted to catch the bad guy and said, don't leave the house. You know, so that's what happened. They told the people not to leave the houses. And for years, the Rwanda had been, since 1960, after that, they had been, the Tutsi, the Hutu, and the Twa, there had been a division that could tell that this is a Hutu and this is a Tutsi. They made ID cards that showed in the same country. I can't imagine that in America here something like that can happen, to make an identity card that shows that you are this ethnicity or something like that. So that's what happened. And they made this is a Twa, this is a Hutu, and this is a Tutsi. So it was very easy to tell. Not only by identity cards, we people who live in Rwanda would know who a Hutu is and who a Tutsi is. It won't probably be easy for you when you come to notice that this is a Hutu or this is a Tutsi. But we know. So Hutus can tell that this is a Tutsi, and the Tutsi can tell this is a Hutu. So the genocide was organized, and it was very well planned. And remember, these are 84%, and these are very minority. There are very few people, like 15%. That time it was actually less than 15. Right now they say 15 because of the other Tutsis that came from other nations after the genocide. So before that, they were probably less than that. And then they started the killing. Now, the methods that were used to kill the Tutsi people, it was really horrible. It was horrible. You can watch, how many of you have watched the Hotel Rwanda? Yeah, they would try to make it easy to watch, because you cannot put everything that happened in Rwanda and people will bear with it. You can't. It was so horrible. How can you put a young woman who has been raped by 100 men on a movie, and people would love to watch that? That can't happen. So they tried to make it mild for people to watch. But the story is much more than that. There's a lot of things. Right now, the man talking to you, I have people that I know very well without arms on. I can take you to Rwanda, and I show you that this guy, and you see yourself that this guy was born with 2 arms, but they were cut off in 1994. So he's a human being with a full brain working very well, but he has no arms. Well, I can show you people who have got like the big hole inside her head, the head was cut. I can show you people that were cut with a panga and just simply refused not to die. They just need to die. I know people that were killed, and they were killed, they were put in a grave and buried alive, and they would stay there for days. I know someone very well who was killed and put in a grave, and was in a grave for very many hours, for 14 hours, down in the grave with all her family members. And that's what happened in Rwanda. Young kids were killed. Young babies were killed. They actually say it was more easier for older people to die than the young ones, because they have bones that are very soft. So like when they hit them really hard, and they just they just don't die easily. And those things happen. These are very unfortunate stories to hear in your ears. You can't bear them, hearing them, but this really happened less than 20 years ago. This really happened in my country. And the people are still there that are suffering the consequences of what happened. A lot of bad stuff happened. A lot of really bad stuff happened. You can't tell all the details of what happened, but really bad stuff happened. But the consequences of the genocide also is still real. You know, a lot of people died, of course. In the genocide, we lost over 1 million people in a small country. Remember, Rwanda is a very small country. And this is the population of Rwanda is like probably the population of the state of Ohio. But you can probably put 3 Rwanda in one state of Ohio. 3 or 4 Rwanda. but the population is the same. It's a very densely populated country. It's one of the densely populated countries in the world, Rwanda, with a lot of people. And then they lost a lot of people. It is here, when I come in America, that I see all the people. You don't see all the people in our country because they are all wiped out. They're all killed. In my country, here I'm a young man, but in my country I am accounted one of the seniors now, if I would say it like that, you know, because a lot of people in the government, people who are running the government are my age. You know, the ministers, they are my age, or maybe a little bit older than me, you know, because they're not all the people. It is here where I come and I see people in their 70s, the 80s, and there are many, 90s, and they're still driving, and there are many, and I feel like stopping it and say, wow. But in Rwanda, we don't see that because people are killed. They were all wiped away. And there are very few. You can rarely find some of them. And some of them that you see are those that came back from neighboring countries when they came back after the genocide. But not many you would see that are there. So there's a lot of need in the country because of the consequences of the genocide. Emotional, terrible emotional needs. People of your age, a lot of people of your age that used to have parents, and they are well-to-do parents. They have money. They had money, but all their things were taken away. And if you are, let's say if you are 20 and 21 years or 22, so if you go back in 1994, that means you're probably going to be 3 or 4 years old. So you remain somewhere, and there are very many people like that. Remain somewhere. One auntie picks you, and then that aunt also does not have a job, and we have a lot of people like that. A lot of people have dropped off students. We have children that in Rwanda that raise other children. We have houses, homes in Rwanda that are built. The government built those homes, and then the children take care of the other children, like 3 siblings. One is probably 11, that's the oldest, and he will be there to take care of others, the one who is 7 and something like that. We have HIV also that have also become part of that tragedy that has happened in Rwanda. So we have a lot of suffering. We have widows, a lot of widows, a lot of young women turning into prostitution. They become prostitutes because they are desperate. They don't have anywhere to run to. So they run to wherever there is any deceiving option. But that's what is happening in Rwanda. And there's poverty, there's need, there's lack, and there's hopelessness that you can see in the eyes of the people because of the genocide. There's a lot of unspoken words in the hearts of people that they don't know. If you just switch on that button and say, tell me what happened in Rwanda, I tell you some of them will not, a lot of people will not be able to say because they will just cry and cry and cry and cry. So those things have happened, and the reason why you would ask yourself what was the cause of the genocide, it's a complex matter. The genocide, remember I told you these three groups used to live together, and historically they say that the Hutu, that's a history we found, they say that the indigenous people, or the people that were there for years, the first people to inhabit Rwanda would be the Twa. And the Twa used to make pots and clay. They used to get clay and make pots, you know, use hands like that. And then after a number of years, then the Hutu came. They used to dig. They loved digging. And then after also a number of years, then the Tutsi came. And they say the Tutsi came from the north. So they think that the Tutsi came from the northern part of Africa. We talk about Ethiopia or Somalia, Eritrea, that part. And then they say that they came following their cows because they love cows. So when they were there, then the governments were set up, and that is how it was for very many years. But in the early 1900s, when the European came, that is where they wanted to get the favor from the majority. And remember, I told you what the majority is. So through that, after the European came in Rwanda, and that is when the eruption of the idea started like that, because there must have been some misunderstanding in the way things work. So they wanted to side in with the who are the majority. And since that time, The idea came, and then in 59, the genocide started, and a lot of people were killed, and then they fled to other countries. And as I told you, in 90, they came back, wanted to come back home, and that's what's happening. So right now, in Rwanda, there's a lot of progress, a lot of also good things that are happening in the nation, a lot of progress. Rwanda is one of the best countries to go to in Africa. I'm not saying this because I'm from there, but it's a fact, you see. If you come to Rwanda, you can ask a lot of people who come from here and go to Rwanda, they always want to go back. There is security in the country. We have a no-nonsense president. You know, he is a real president. We needed that kind of a president to put the country online, because this is a country that was in a mess and chaotic and stuff like that. So things are organized. Our corruption, I think, in the country in the continent of Africa, we may probably be the number one, or maybe the number 2 country, less corrupt country. There is no corruption. It's illegal. If you give some money, of course there is, but you know, if you do something, you'll be put in prison. In a country, there's order in the nation. The streets are clean. Once every month, by law, we're all supposed to get out of our houses and go clean our neighborhood. Even the ministers, the government ministers, they have to get out of their homes, put on their shorts or whatever they have, and then start digging and clean. It's by law. If you don't do that, you have trouble with the law. In our country, if you walk through the flowers or the grass where you are not supposed to walk, you'll be fined. If you park on the pavement. I say this because this is what is happening here. So in Africa, if someone who has come from Africa knows that is a miracle, you know, to do those kind of things. In Africa, in Kampala, for example, which is the capital city of Uganda, it's totally different. I tell my friend, I'm taking a group of nurses and doctors to Kampala, to Uganda, for a mission that we have there next year. And I was telling them what to expect. And I tell them, the way you know how to drive, the driving lessons you know, when you get to Kampala, forget it. Just forget that you don't know how to drive. Just put it aside and use what is there. And I told them, in Kampala, one way does not mean one way. It's 20 ways, you know, that is in Kampala. And everything, you know, people will just go anywhere they want to go. You see motorcycles from everywhere, you know. They believe you have 20 eyes. You know, keeping lane is not what matters. Is you got to know where you're going. You got to have eyes here, everywhere. Watch out. So I tell people, it's all the things the laws you know about driving, you forget. But in Rwanda, it's different. It's a little bit different. In Rwanda, there's that order, and there is that favor, and there is the IT, the technology in our country is very fast. I mean, people, if you are selling computers or you are into the IT, you don't pay taxes. They encourage technology, so it's one of the fastest countries as far as internet or technology is concerned. And Rwanda is trying to do a good governance. Our president has tried to put things in line that I like. You know, there's a lot of there will never be a good leader. There will never be a good leader as far as pleasing everyone is concerned. You know, as all of us are not perfect, but you can criticize this, but you can also appreciate this. So if I go to the appreciation part, there is a lot of good things that I appreciate about our president. For example, one morning he wakes up in the morning and tells the people that we are wasting a lot of money. We need this money to develop our country. So we are paying a lot of workers. We got to reduce workers to, you know, and he does that, and he tells the government minister that you don't need a driver, unless if you can pay for yourself, but the government is not going to pay for your driver. And he took away all their cars that the government bought for them. Buy for yourself a car. We're going to give you a loan, and we do that. And they thought he was joking. So one morning, they were taking kids to school. He deploys all the army, and they get all the government cars. And there were too many. And it was very uncomfortable things to do. You know, can you imagine a government minister? What a government minister in Africa? Don't talk about a government minister here. A minister in Africa is the real minister. You know what I'm talking about. He's big man. You know? So So they started walking, going wherever they were going. And things were things turned around. And he went to the army, to the soldiers, and said, you have a lot of cars that you got when we came into the country, and like Ruti, you got these cars that didn't belong to you. Take them back. These are not your cars. And they thought he was kidding. He comes back. He had a trip to China. He comes back. He said, guys, did you take back the cars that don't belong to you? They said, no. Okay, you are in for it, you know. And they took them back. He is a patriotic guy. He loves his country, and he's working upon. In our country, you don't say the word Hutu or Tutsi. You just know. You know, we are Rwandese. We are all Rwandese. He promotes unity. And the country is online. If you bring any racism or division kind of ideology, you'll be arrested quickly in our country. And he's fighting against all racism. He helps the government if the president of all, in all sectors and aspects, if the president of an organization is a Hutu, a big organization, if the president is a Hutu, he tries to share power. The vice president of that organization is going to be a Tutsi. Like that, and that brings security. Like, for example, in our country, he is a Tutsi. Kagame is a Tutsi, so the vice president is a Hutu. And that is how it has been. So, like the former president, before he came, he was a Hutu, and he was the vice president, and he was a Tutsi. So he tries to make sure there is unity in the country. So it is a safe place to go. That does not mean that the genocide still has a lot of effects on the lives of people. It still does. Right now, as you go there, when you land at the airport of Kigali International Airport, you will see the effects of the genocide upon the country. So I would say the genocide is a very tragic thing. It's a very bad thing. It still happens in the world today. It is still there, and please pray for that country. Pray for the total healing, the wounds, the tears that people shed every night. You know, the loneliness, the anger, the bitterness, the unforgiveness that is people carry in their hearts all the time. That will take a miracle for that heart to be renewed and people to be able to laugh again and to hope again. And that was happening in the country of Rwanda. So I think I'm going to end here. If anyone has a question, please welcome. Yes, sir?
Okay, so you mentioned that strong leadership was one of the reasons why the genocide, why after the genocide the country was able to grow and prosper. What were some other reasons why in 20 years that Rwanda was able to become such a more prosperous nation?
Well, I think it is a vision. It's a vision. It still goes to leadership again. Everything rises and falls on leadership. I don't know how I can answer the way a country can progress or any institution can grow without visionary leaders. Everything rises and falls because of leadership. Poor leadership puts things down. Good leadership puts things up. So that vision, the man or the leader came with a vision. He knew what he wanted, and he's disciplined, and he had a vision. But I can say something else that that has happened is that he has allowed democracy in a very big way. A democracy in our country is growing. We are not yet there. We're not like America, where everyone can say whatever he wants to say with whom he wants to say. We are so far as democracy is concerned, but we are on the track. We are on the right track. He has allowed that, like election. There was no elections. He started having elections and freedom of speech, you know, and you see the newspaper guys asking him questions or asking people who come in, and we have seen that happening. So he has allowed democracy to come in. Then another thing I think that I can say that is going on in Rwanda is that the unity aspect is also very important. The unity thing, the unity of being Rwandese and not Hutu. Because the former government, the ideology of the former government was not unity. It was segregation. It was division. That's why in class, when kids went to school, primary school kids, 6 years old, 7 years old, before the teacher is taught, she or he used to first ask, how many of you are Tutsi? How many of you are Hutu? They had to, by law, they had to lift up their hands to be able to be noticed that this is the Hutu and this is the Tutsi. I know, you know, that's not good. You know, it's like kids. Can you imagine a school in Tiffin here, and then the teacher comes and say, how many of you are whites? How many of you are blacks? Stand up. I think they're 6-year-old kids. You know, what are you creating? And they're thinking, you know, how many of you are Asians? You know, that's not, you know, they make division from childhood. And the ideology in the former government was that the Tutsi were cockroaches. They were called cockroaches. Cockroaches. It was actually very easy for them to be crushed and to be killed because people have been trained. Their conscience for years had been trained to think of Tutsi as cockroaches. You know, just, this is just a cockroach, you know. So that was, I would say, one of the reasons that the current government has been successful in making making this country progress in the country is because they promoted unity and democracy and visionary leadership. Yes, sir.
In relation to that, could you talk a little bit about the reconciliation process that's happened in Rwanda, the Gacaca courts and that?
Yeah. Well, there is a reconciliation going on. There's Gacaca, like here, Dr. Heu is saying. Is Gacaca. Gacaca is a local word which means that local judge. What happened is that because there's a lot of people who have committed genocide, who have done genocide, and they're all over the country, but their sins are not the same. So they're not at the same level. They are those ones who planned genocide. Those are really planners of genocide. They have their category of sin. And there are also those who killed many people. And there are also those ones who did not really kill. They just found themselves into the group of killers like that. So they formed what they call Gacaca, the local court. Like Gacaca is a word which means that, okay, let's sit together as a family and solve our own issues. So they come up with that from all in the whole country, and they started doing that. And with that, they released a lot of people who confessed, who admitted that they killed people. Some of people confessed, and those people they were released and they were sent out, but they could keep an eye on them, you know, like they are under, I don't know how you call it, the surveillance or something like that. They could do that, and then they select and see that this is what this one did, horrible one. So he's going to be judged with this maximum of years or killed. So, but reconciliation, excuse me, reconciliation, how far reconciliation is going is that one is that there's a lot of people's sensitization about reconciliation on TV. On TV, they talk about a lot about reconciliation. Every approach goes to the side of reconciliation. You know, preachers or churches, we promote reconciliation. They are encouraged to promote reconciliation. Wherever people gather, when people have gathered like this, they talk about reconciliation. They discourage that, you know. They discourage any idea of division. So reconciliation is a very big deal in our country. If you're going to live in Rwanda and you want to be there in Rwanda, you had better go there with a plan to adapt to that system of reconciliation, because that's the main topic, politically speaking. It's the main thing. It's the main thing that everyone promotes. So reconciliation is working. It is, in a way, working. I don't say that it's easy, though. I don't say that just like that. It takes years. It takes a long time. It also takes personal conviction sometimes, how people relate with God, how they relate with their conscience to be able to go over that. But nationally speaking, there are things you can't say in our country, even though you feel like you want to say it in your own home or by yourself, but there are things that by law you cannot just say that brings racism or division, you know. But, you know, as far as other personal healings and personal convictions and personal beliefs, as far as division is concerned, it is going to, some people, it's going to take some time to be able to heal. Yeah. Another question?
Any questions?
Yes, sir?
How about if the child was mixed, Tutsi and Hutu, if he was mixed, what would he be labeled?
Well, oh, okay, that's a, when a child is mixed with a Hutu and Tutsi, that's a very sensitive question. Because as a matter of fact, some kids have a lost identity because of that. Like, for example, that's actually something that needs serious attention. And if there's any I pray that there will be some people who are willing to go, who are counselors, to go to help traumatized people in the country for healing. Because some kids, for example, if I know a kid, they kind of are by themselves. They are like in their own world. Unless if these two parents still live together and they still love each other, then they stand up for their kids. But I know a kid, the mother was a Hutu, and he married a Tutsi before the genocide. So now what happened is that after the genocide, when many people die, the relatives of the husband will tell the husband, how can you bring this person in our lineage of a family? So the husband will say, leave, go, I don't need you anymore. You guys, you have a very bad people that have killed our people. The woman goes back home. When she reaches home, they say, well, you come here? And you've been married to those guys? No, you can't live with us. We don't trust you. You know, when I'm talking about home, I'm talking about the Hutu side. So where does she belong? That is a terrible state to live in. No one accepts her. She doesn't have a place where she feels that this is where she can confide and belong. So the child of that woman, the father would accept her, but she still has to have a mother, you know? And that also affects a lot. But generally speaking, to answer that question, that is not really a problem now as it was before the genocide. The children who were born right there and lost their parents, right about that, they faced the problem. But right now, it is not a problem because of the reconciliation process going on. I have witnessed people like, I actually am a pastor back home in Rwanda, so I married people. And these people, they could not be accepted because the girl is a Tutsi and the boy is a Hutu. And both parents cannot accept that. They say you can't marry her and you can't marry him. And these two people love themselves. They love each other. They came to me, they said, Pastor, what should we do? And my question is, do you love each other? Yeah. I asked the guy, do you love him? He said, yeah, with a big smile. Sure? Yeah. I asked the man, do you love her? Yes, sir. I said, good, come. I married them, and they're now married together. They have, right now, they have about 3 beautiful kids, and they're happy. And the parents had no option, but that is anyone to do that, he has to know what he or she wants. It is like you got to, you too know what you want because you're going to have serious work. On their weddings, their parents didn't show up. Can you imagine that? That is how far it was. But that's a number of years ago. So things are changing. And it's people like that that are initiating those ideas that are going to change the whole country. Because you know really how you get to know that this outside appearance, even all over the world where there have been these issues, this outside appearance on TV and nice speeches does not, we know that you've really truly changed when it comes to intermarriage. So the attitudes you have about the other group, we know that you really mean it when it comes to the other group proposing your daughter or your son or something like that. Then you know you have really crossed the boundaries. Does that answer the question? Yeah. Yes, sir?
In countries where genocide is taking place, what kind of role do you see, say, like the United States or Western Europe playing, or even like the United Nations, in helping to stop those types of things and rebuild the country?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, during the genocide of Rwanda, actually, President Bill Clinton had to repent and say, I'm sorry, I didn't do anything that I was supposed to do. But nothing was really happening. The UN was there. They were there during the genocide, and nothing was done. One of the things that Rwandan country as a nation that has been wounded so much is about a word called UN. UN offends a lot of Rwandese people because they think UN did not do anything that they were supposed to have done. Of course, afterwards, they've done a lot of, they've tried to amend the relationships, you know, by repenting like what the President Bill Clinton did, and also by trying to send support of anyhow, you know, we take that by the word, but generally, I don't know for other countries, but what I know in Rwanda, knowing my people, they feel like they were neglected, left out, they were angry. I remember I used to hear them talk when the UN was still there, peacekeepers who used to be there, and they were saying, keeping which peace? They should leave us. We are going to take care of ourselves. They should leave us. And, you know, so maybe to answer the question is, it wasn't much help during the need, when it was needed. But right now there's trying to do amending those wounds by trying to become friends again and supporting the country again, and there's a lot of people who have been going down there to Rwanda, you know, big people from the US, you know, so.